It's early in the morning and the air is crisp. The sky is still holding on to the darkness of night, and you blink yourself awake. You lace up your shoes, press play on your favorite playlist, and allow the music to fill your ears. As you step out into the quiet, it is the exact same thing that you have done countless times. But as your feet hit the pavement, a thought creeps in. What if I don't make it home? If you have ever tightened your grip on your keys, scanned your surroundings not once, but multiple times, turned to look over your shoulder, ran faster, shared your location, or desperately searched for someone to be nearby, you are not alone. For far too many women, the simple act of running, of reclaiming peace, strength, and freedom has ended in tragedy. These are women who have trained hard, loved harder, and are more than just the victims. Their vanished footsteps echo a reality that is rarely spoken about, yet always on our minds. Fear is a companion that many women carry on every single run. Welcome to Girl Gone Running, a Tragedy with a View series where I tell the stories of the women who went out for a run and never came home. It is not about her death, it is about her life, the voice she no longer has, and the warning signs that we can't afford to ignore. Because what is happening on these days is not random. And as we dig deeper, we find that it is changing everything. Welcome back to Tragedy with a View. Hello. Welcome back. I am your host, Kayla. Very quickly, I want to address one thing, and that is that if you follow me on social media or even on the Patreon, I am very behind in posting episode photos. So if you've noticed that, know that I am aware. The short version is that I've been having a really hard time being on social media lately, just overwhelmed with all of the projects that I kind of have going on and balancing work, and house issues have come up, which I know like everybody kind of has these things that they all have to balance. And sometimes it gets really hard, and sometimes you disassociate by getting on social media and scrolling. And sometimes I do that. And sometimes I'm on social media for 3 minutes and I'm like, I can't do this. I need to like connect with a real person. So know that I am behind, and I am sorry. And that when I have the mental capacity to organize the 25,000 photos that I have in my phone and get those posted, I will. My mental capacity right now is barely getting these episodes to you in a timely manner. So we're taking what we have and rolling with it, and eventually things will catch up, and I trust the process. So welcome to another episode of Girl Gone Running. On April 26th, 2017, 37-year-old Janell Leach was walking down the aisle towards her soon-to-be husband, 50-year-old Stephen Mora. And with each step toward him, she was nearly vibrating with energy. She had found an incredible man who loved her and loved her 2 boys. He was kind and charming, and coming from already one failed marriage, she was excited beyond belief to be here. Janell and Stephen had met only 10 months prior in July of 2016. Stephen, fresh out of his own divorce, decided to get back out there, and when he and Janell matched on Tinder, neither of them knew the path that they would be walking down just 3 years later. Both Janell and Stephen had successful careers. Stephen was a local real estate agent and was very successful in this job. And Janell worked as an associate director for international student professional development at the Arizona State University. She had a bachelor's degree and 2 master's degrees in education and business. And this allowed her to obtain her position, which required her to travel all over the world to recruit students. As can be expected, Janell had a lot of energy and a lot of drive to accomplish her own goals. Not only was her work ethic fantastic, but she was also a devoted wife. She was happy and optimistic, and she was a loving mom to her two boys, 8 and 9-year-olds Brighton and Owen. She had a huge, compassionate heart for those around her, which makes her very good at connecting with her students and helping to ease their concerns when it came to choosing a university to attend in the United States. Their wedding was as elegant and charming as she was. With her bleached blonde hair, bold red lips, and easy smile, it is easy to see what Stephen saw in her. But when you look at the photos of this couple, it is also easy to see that there is something dark and sinister and calculating behind Stephen's smile. Maybe it is the shine in his eyes that doesn't seem to radiate the same happiness as Janell. Or maybe it's the smirk on his lips that forms a pit in my gut. Whatever it was, as soon as you look at the photos, you can see the difference between these two powerful humans. One is happy and calm, and the other looks like he's inwardly celebrating his prey falling right into his trap. Together, they lived in a home in northern Phoenix, Arizona, but the happiness that Janell felt on her wedding day soon gave way to fits of panic and worry. Stephen began to use drugs, specifically cocaine, but others as well. He began to hire prostitutes and would feed off of those addictions like it was his life that depended on it, all while Janell shattered in the background. Janell was suffering. She experienced a betrayal of someone she trusted, which tore apart her sense of self and what she thought she knew. He manipulated her by using threats, demeaning her, and making her feel worthless. His use of drugs resulted in an emotional distancing and then isolation as Janell essentially became a single mother in her home with a partner. Further, prostitutes creates a physical barrier that left Janell separated from her partner, feeling that she couldn't meet his needs. Then there were trust issues, emotional distress, and the instability inside of the home. When September of 2020 rolled around, Janell was already on the verge of leaving. But when Stephen waved around a revolver one day, it was the straw that broke the camel's back. Taking her two boys and leaving, Janell fled to a friend's home on September 7th. Her friend lived about 20 miles away in East Mesa, and she was purposefully trying to hide from Stephen. She was scared of him. It does not take a wild imagination to know what was happening behind closed doors. While information released to the public never indicates Janell was physically abused, the emotional and verbal abuse she undoubtedly experienced, and maybe even her boys too, was enough to send her over the edge. It did not take long for her to have divorce papers drawn up and filed with their local courts. She was done with not feeling safe in her own home with her children. And as far as she could tell, he wasn't going to fight her on the divorce. But they still had a conference scheduled to determine some things later that month on September 28th. The entire time, Janell lived with her friend and did not tell Stephen where she was living. Again, she was trying to hide from him. She, again, was scared of him. And yet, he figured out where she lived and began stalking her. For several days, he would drive around the area looking for Janell, even going up to the home and asking for her. She wasn't there at the time, and I believe it was her friend's husband who opened the door and just played it off like he didn't know where Janell was staying. But still, he was able to follow her enough that on the evening of September 26th, Stephen saw Janell out running just a few blocks from Arizona State University's Polytechnic campus near the Mesa Gateway Airport. Running was a usual hobby for Janell. It was a good way for her to stay in shape, work some of her high energy out of her body, and calm her mind in the mayhem of the separation and divorce. But it was this evening that things again changed for the worst for Janell. While she was running on Power Road near where it intersects with Route 202, Janell's worst nightmare came to life. This area is very well traveled. There are a lot of people. Power Road is a main road through the area, and Route 202 is a highway. There is an airport and a school campus with all of these people around. She should be safe. Yet, at 6:45 p.m., when Janell looked up and gazed around the area, a familiar silver Mercedes-Benz was parked nearby, and sitting in the driver's seat was Stephen. He had ambushed her. Janell's breathing caught in her throat and she stumbled her way to a stop and then sprint in the opposite direction. Her heart rate spiked with her adrenaline and she began to flag down the closest car. She screamed, help me, he's got a gun." In her panic, the words probably came out faster than the person could understand, and in the span of a minute, Stephen stepped out of his parked car and chased after Janell. With a single shot from his revolver, he shot Janell in the side. The bullet fractured several of her left ribs and stopped after it pierced her lung. Witnesses will later say that they saw a man matching Stephen's description crouched over Janell as she laid on the ground bleeding out. Her breaths were fast and shallow, and he just watched her as she struggled to keep breathing. The entire time, he held the revolver in his hand. Then he got up and walked away. Another witness would come forward and mention that they watched as the silver lowrider ran over Janell as she laid there dying. Good Samaritans, despite the quick action in calling 911 and performing CPR, were devastated as they watched the life slip from Janell's eyes. She never even made it to the hospital. And what of Stephen Mora? Where did he go? Well, he tried to take the coward's way out. He drove to the Mesa police headquarters and parked his car in the parking lot. He then called 911 and gave them a very different message than the one that they had received just moments earlier, saying a woman had been shot and killed while she was running down the road. The operator who answered the phone heard him say something along the lines of, "I killed my wife, and now I will kill myself." He didn't hang up the phone before he put the barrel of this gun to his forehead and pulled the trigger. Inside the building, police heard the gun go off, and as they stepped out of the building to assess the situation, Stephen opened his car door and stepped out of his car before walking towards them. He had clearly suffered from a terrible wound as blood was covering his face and soaking into his shirt. Inside his car was the revolver that he had used to kill Janell and then shot himself with. 2 spent bullet casings and his cell phone were also in the car, which provided a source of location tracking. Because police responded right away to the gunfire, they were also able to respond right away to provide care to Stephen. Despite the bullet tearing through his brain and his quick decline, he was whisked away to the hospital. On the way, he suffered from 3 heart attacks and then was taken into emergency surgery, which saved his life. But now, his violent and sinister intentions are not just hidden behind his gaze. His mind was altered enough that you can see his nature written all over his face. Upon his release from the hospital, Stephen was arrested for the murder of Janell. He was charged with second-degree murder, which carries a 10 to 25-year prison sentence and does not require proof that there was planning or deliberation involved. It simply means that a person took action and that action was in direct disregard for the value of a human's life. The judge sent Stephen's bail at $1 million, and Stephen hired attorney Charles Nagel to defend him in court. Attorney Nagel then met with Stephen multiple times, and in the filings with the court, he insists that Stephen is not a malicious person. He is extremely mild-mannered and even sensitive, and many of his friends and family agree. When they hear that Stephen killed Janell, they are in shock, and they just can't believe that he did this, and even go so far as to ask the judge to have mercy on him. The Stephen that they know wouldn't have harmed anyone, and some of his friends and family even state that they, quote, refuse to accept the deed was inflicted by one of the greatest people we have ever known. Which begs the question, if he wasn't capable, if he wasn't behaving in a violent way behind closed doors, why would Janell have run away and tried to hide? Of course, what happened in front of family and friends and peers was a very different expression from what Janell experienced at the hands of Stephen behind their closed doors. And Janell's family vehemently agrees that Stephen was violent and capable of this. They saw Janell as the relationship shifted from one that she had dreamed of to one of her worst nightmares. Stephen's attorney further states that Stephen had been going through therapy and a variety of treatments to overcome, quote, mental and emotional deficiencies caused by a lifetime of psychological issues. And medical records do show that Stephen had suffered from a major depressive disorder, or MDD. MDD is also known as clinical depression, and is a severe mood disorder that is accompanied by persistent sadness, the feeling of hopelessness, and a loss of interest with daily life. These episodes of sadness will last 2 weeks or longer, and this, of course, then affects a person's ability to work, function in day-to-day life, and maintain healthy relationships. These changes can be caused by or contributed to changes in sleep patterns, the inability to concentrate on simple tasks, and suicidal thoughts. MDD usually has some genetic, biological, psychological, and environmental factors at play. And for Stephen specifically, he was noted to be having severe reoccurring episodes that also included psychotic episodes, implying that he was having long reoccurring episodes of depression that were accompanied by delusions and hallucinations. His episodes were separating him from reality, which is heartbreaking by itself, but it's no excuse for savagely murdering someone. Further, the bullet that Stefan fired into his own head made the psychotic breaks worse, especially when he no longer recognizes himself in the mirror or when he speaks. Despite the reconstructive surgery that was done repairing his face and throat, he cannot form clear words. What he also cannot do is remember killing Janell. And while I know there is a defense for people who have split personalities or medical conditions that result in them being unable to remember the acts that they performed, I do not find it to be an excuse to allow for murder or to not be held accountable for not only stealing a life, but stealing the life away from others. Stephen's life, in a way, was repaired. Janell's life was taken from her. It was taken from her families. It was taken from her sons, all due to his own actions. In the state of Arizona, the first time a person is charged with second-degree murder and found guilty, they are automatically sentenced to 16 years behind bars. But due to the violent and premeditated nature of his actions, Stephen's probation officer pushed for a longer sentence than the normal 16-year term. In 2022, Stephen accepted a plea deal exchanging a guilty admission of the second-degree murder, the unlawful killing of Janell with malice, with the intent to kill or cause harm, but without the premeditation. So essentially, he acted with the intent to kill or harm Janell, but he didn't leave his home with the intent. For his admission, he was sentenced to 25 years, which I very quickly just want to mention that if he didn't leave his home with the intention to cause harm or kill Janell, then why the hell did he take a gun? Why the hell did he bring a gun? Janell was returned home and buried under her maiden name in Fayette, Arkansas, and a trust fund was set up for her boys to add donations to so that in some way their mother left them a legacy. Domestic violence is often built up over time using manipulation tactics and intimidation, with the abuser trying to control every aspect of the victim's life. No matter how it is done, leaving, separating from an abusive partner is always dangerous. I want to be clear here. Janell did nothing wrong. Should you find yourself in a situation where you need help leaving a violent partner, whether you are a man, woman, gay, straight, whether the abuse is physical, emotional, psychological, know that help is available. We want to see you safe, alive, and thriving. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is available to you either online or at thehotline.org or by calling 1-800-799-7233 or texting the number 88788. And as always, if you are in immediate danger or fearing for your life, please call 911 or your country's version of 911. This episode's sources include themessatribute.com, scottsdale.org, Fox 10, ABC 15, and gilbertsunnews.com. Thank you so much for listening. We will talk again soon. Bye.